This episode is brought to you by Athletics Apparel. Go to athleticsgear.storeenvy.com to check out new and unique clothing for great prices. There you can stock up on items from this podcast like socks, t-shirts, and more. You'll also find clothing that'll fit your daily outfit. So remember to listen to this podcast, then immediately head over to athleticsgear.storeenvy.com. That's ATHLETIKS gear.storeenvy.com.
Have you ever felt?
Are you listening? Damn. Yeah.
Absolutely, that works. All right, so I'm gonna go into the intro.
Okay.
Basically, if you haven't listened before, it's just I usually like to bring people on, just allow them to talk about what they want to talk about.
Absolutely.
And if I'm knowledgeable about it enough, I'll chime in here and there.
Okay. Okay.
But I know you got a lot of topics on your mind, so you can let them rip, and it's just like I said, free base talk, and I'll chop it up later.
Absolutely. Well, I want to first and foremost just introduce myself. Dennis Cole II. Royalty, obviously. That's why I live in the Bronx.
Of course.
So I represent.
Yeah.
So one thing I did want to actually talk about is this Tom Brady Super Bowl, players not going, people going. Honestly, at the end of the day, I don't care, right? I mean, if you won, your job is not to, like Nelly said, your job is not to have to go to the White House. Your job is on the field.
Right.
So after you finish, you win, it's done. Just because Tom Brady didn't go last time doesn't mean he's racist. Maybe he doesn't agree with Obama, whatever the case may be. But this, is such big headlines when, the other players are saying they're not going to go. But when Tom Brady didn't go, I don't know why it didn't make as big a news. I mean, he was the, quarterback.
Right. Well, you had to expect that coming, right? Because, we're not telling any secrets here, but Tom Brady's a white guy, right? He seems pretty privileged to me. So, in that sense, you kind of expect the general public to not see it as him. They see it more as him making a political statement rather than a racial statement.
Right.
But I think when the black players decide not to go, they see that as they, being the general public, sees it as the black players making a racist stance.
Right.
And so it's like an elitist stand, like, oh, he's a rich white guy, and he's not my president, so therefore I'm not going, or they call them liberals, or look at these liberal pussies,
right?
Shit like that. So there's definitely a double standard with the two, of course.
For real, it's so disheartening. I mean, Chris Long, he decided not to go. He didn't say his reason. He just said he's not going.
Right.
So that's great, whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, I mean, like I said, you did it, your job on the field. You don't have to go. The double standard is very, very apparent. I don't know if you remember during the Olympics when not Gabby Douglas. Oh, damn, I can't remember her name. But, when those boys basically went out and caused the problem.
Oh, you're talking about, what's his dude's name?
Lochte.
Ryan Lochte. Yeah, Ryan Lochte.
Yes.
Yep.
So he lied, caused so much issue, made a big deal. One girl doesn't stand for the Pledge of Allegiance or whatever it was, or maybe the anthem, and she gets vilified.
Right.
But he can lie on on people, and it's just like, well, he's boys being boys, and the guy's in his 30s.
So, basically that's what they call it. The guy's I think he's in his mid 30s.
Yes.
And they call it well, boys are gonna be boys, or he was just having fun. And shit like that. And it's it's so clear. The thing that gets me is, and this just may be one player. I'm sure it happened before, but remember when this was a few years ago when the Steelers won. The Steelers won. I forgot who they beat. Damn it! It was when Bush was in office.
So I know they beat Arizona.
Yeah, it was probably that one.
Okay.
It was a couple years ago. It was right before Bush left office.
Okay.
No, I'm sorry. I apologize. It wasn't when Bush was in. It was actually when Obama was in office.
Okay.
And they may have beat the Arizona Cardinals. And their linebacker, James Harrison, decided not to go to the White House because he apparently didn't agree with Obama's politics.
Okay.
But you can throw that whole race thing out the window with that because James Harrison is black. Obama is a black president. And so nobody really points that out when they're talking about, these different players not going to the White House.
Absolutely. And honestly, I don't mind someone having different political views than I do, because honestly, that what makes the world go around. So I'm not going to delete someone if they're Republican, or I'm not going to make fun of them or whatever the case may be, because we're all allowed to have our own different views.
Right.
And I hate living in a bubble. I don't want to live in a bubble.
I agree.
I want to watch Fox News sometimes, get to see what they're saying.
I don't want to do that, but I agree with you.
Well, I'm saying I just want to get the other side.
Yeah, I got you.
I know what I believe in, and I want to see what other people think, because that's how you grow. You know. For example, Tommy Lauren. I'm sure you may have heard of her.
Yep.
So recently, not recently, maybe a month ago, she went on, I forget the man's name, show, used to be The Daily Show. Now,
Trevor Noah.
Yes, thank you.
Yep.
So here we go. She's out there. I think she's more than a figurehead than anything. I don't really even think she believes half the shit she's saying.
I absolutely agree with that.
She's just out there talking.
Yeah.
But here she's, like Colin Kaepernick, and he's disgracing the flag, and he's doing all this. So my thing, when he asked her, he said, well, all right, you mad when people kneel, you mad if people protest, you mad if people stand up. How should black people protest?
Right.
What would make you comfortable? You know what I'm saying?
Right.
For someone to show their dissentment. And it's true, like, you don't want people to be angry. You don't want people to riot. I don't agree with rioting either. But what is your expectation? Just like, I don't know, I posted this a couple of times on Facebook, and Martin Luther King, while he was in the Alabama jail, was talking about how the biggest detriment to the civil rights movement is the fact that, white people, while we appreciate their discourse and the fact that they're, fighting for some of the same civil rights that black people want, but when the black people do something, they almost like, I agree with you, but I don't want, to be, I don't want you to say anything about it.
Yeah.
Rather you just be, unhappy. And it's like, you can't. You gotta protest. You gotta kneel. I mean, he's just kneeling. It's not like he's cursing anybody out.
Right.
He's not like he said, Trevor Noah. He's not like saying, "Oh, say, can you see? You suck." He's just kneeling.
Yeah.
And that is a problem.
Yeah.
And it upsets me, because at the end of the day, shit ain't 100% great. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
So like we've had the conversation. Just because my life is good, it doesn't mean I should be like, you know what, I made it, fuck everybody else, it's all good. By the way, can we curse on this?
Yeah, you can curse your ass off, it's all good.
You know what I'm saying? So, it's not
but what just to refer to the listeners real quick, what Dennis is talking about is, like I always tell you guys, I have these sort of disagreements on my personal Facebook page, and Dennis is referring to me lashing out about. Do you remember what I was talking about, Dennis, by any chance?
More recently, do I remember exactly? No, I don't. I gotta be honest.
Okay.
You were just angry. You was angry.
I was angry.
Oh, wait, I remember. It's Daily News. How they vilified the.
Yeah. How they vilified the black kid that got arrested for that girl's murder.
Yes.
And I think it's Queens, maybe I'm wrong, in New York City.
I believe so.
And so I was I just stated that I didn't believe that the kid did it, and I went on to say some other things, and this guy had commented and said that why am I concerned with it? My life is good. I've got a kid on the way and things like that, and that I shouldn't be worried with this stuff. And to kind of piggyback off what you said.
Right.
Why should that matter?
Right.
Just because my life is good doesn't mean that. And again, the word "good" is it's all perception.
I was going to say it's relative.
Yeah, it's relative. So, just because my life is quote unquote good, that shouldn't mean that I shouldn't be able to advocate for people who are in worse situations or circumstances.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. I don't disagree. It's one of those things where, and I think my comeback was in the 50s, the white people's lives were great. You know, they could go where they want to go. They could do what they want to do. But it wasn't until they started standing up and saying this is wrong, when Lyndon Johnson started seeing them get hit with water cannons or the dogs, you know, coming after them. They're like, oh, snap, we got to maybe, you know, do some stuff, because then they got to see like people looking like them also getting abused. It was okay when it was just, you know, the brothers and sisters, but when they saw their own fighting and standing up, then it made a movement. And that's the point. We're human beings. We can't be like, oh, it's okay. I know, thank God I'm not lynched. You know, thank God I can walk, you know, places where I couldn't before. But we ain't there yet. And we see that today we're not there yet. Look at, I guess it's going to be one of those political podcasts.
Nah, it's all good. We covered the last 5 episodes were complete horse shit. So we covered like we covered like nonsense. So we can have one political podcast. That's okay.
Good.
Yeah.
Me, the Blacktivist.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I mean, we see today, and this is the thing about America, we take one step forward and like 10 steps back.
Right.
So here we go. We free the slaves. Then what happens? We got the NRA. It's formed right after, because, oh no, these slaves are angry. They're going to kill us. So we got to get some guns.
Yep.
You know? And then we have, you know, well, they're free, except if they get, you know, arrested. And then we can use slave labor.
Yeah.
You know, and that became, you know, the 13th Amendment. And it's like, you see it, and I know you haven't watched the documentary yet.
I haven't yet. You know what? But when you had, just to interject, when you had sent me the link to it, there was just so much shit going on, man. And I didn't want to be, I felt like I was being bombarded by just bad information. Not bad information, but just things that were negative. And I just didn't want to deal with it, you know? But I think there's a time and place for everything. So at some point I'll go ahead and watch it. But you can go ahead, you can get back to where you're saying. I'm sorry.
No, absolutely. So we're talking about, you know, the documentary on Netflix, 13th. Great documentary. I think it even won an Emmy recently. Yeah. Or nominated, I believe.
Nominated.
Yeah, and I mean, you know, they don't teach you this shit in school growing up. Mm-hmm. You don't know the devastation that poverty, you know, befalls a community. You know, the fact that, you know, redlining where black soldiers went off, they joined the army, they come back home, they're given the GI Bill like everyone else,
right? But
then there are sections where only they can basically buy, because in the GI Bill itself, it says, you know, these are there are 2 factors that you can look at: race, and I forget the other one. Excuse me if I don't remember exactly, but the fact that, you know, you almost limit the possibilities for someone who went off and fought for the country. You know, Shannon Sharp made a great point while the Colin Kaepernick thing was going on. You had these guys going off to fight for America, but when they come back in America, they're treated like shit. So I can understand why Muhammad Ali's like,
no thank you.
You know, yeah. You know, like, B.A. Cobb never called me the N-word, you know? Yeah. So, you know, it's like, and don't get me wrong, I know being in America, I have more things that are available to me than if I grew up somewhere else. So I'm not going to sit here and try to trash it. But I just want to say, you know, at the end of the day, you know, it's not 100% where it needs to be, and that's why I'm even more political than I used to be. They teach us about Adolf Hitler, and what he did was horrible. Yeah. But you know about King Leopold? Do you know what he did?
I don't.
King Leopold killed millions. The estimate is like, I think it was King Leopold II. I believe the estimate is like 20 million Africans killed. Damn. And I mean, he was vicious. Damn. Like before lunch, you're like, oh, I'm going to kill 3,000 black people, then I'm going to take a break, and I'm going to come back and kill another 3,000. Yeah. I mean, vicious. That's they don't teach us about what happened to the Aborigines, right? Yep. I mean, they almost annihilated a people. Yeah. Because of their skin color. And so, you know, a lot of this stuff, you know, we got to teach our kids. And I hear you. I hear what you're saying. Sometimes things put you in a negative space because you get so angry. So it's like, fuck, you know, they've gone through all this. and now all of a sudden, why are you angry for?
Yeah,
You know what I'm saying? Like, why are you mad?
Yeah, right.
You got a job.
Right.
Like,
No, and actually, I briefly touched on that on episode 5, which was titled "Baby Mama." Baby Mama was featured. But I briefly touched on that, and she had remarked about how people of color are scarred in a sense, and I agreed with her and said, yeah, we're definitely scarred. If you just look at our history and everything we've been through, we have a reason to be pessimistic.
Yes.
We have a reason to be cautious in things we do and in people we meet. And so when you bring up all of that, it just kind of solidifies that opinion, you know?
Yeah, no, I feel you. And I know you had a question you asked on your wall, you know, just if you date a white woman doesn't mean you can't have any views as being a black man. And it's not like if you date a white woman, all of a sudden people see you like with a white filter. You know
right. What I had asked audience is, I said, but because I date a white woman, or any other black guy dates a white woman, can he not be considered pro-black?
Right.
Or is his does it change your outlook on him if he fights or supports black issues?
Right.
You know, in those uncertain terms.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, so that's basically what you're saying is that was the question.
Right. No, and absolutely, you dating a white woman cannot, like I said, no one sees Tahani and be like, oh, that's a white man dating her. Okay, that doesn't jive. I mean, if you go into a store and, you know, in Biloxi, Mississippi, and, you know what I'm saying, you're going to be looked at depending on where you are in Biloxi, Mississippi.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? They're not going to be like, oh, he has the white card.
Dude, I'm up here in upstate New York. Every time we go into an Applebee's, dude, we get stared at, man. Like, and
really, is that bad?
It's not that bad, but
okay.
It's, you know, it's like you get those looks from certain people, you know. Mm-hmm. So it's like I completely understand and agree with what you're saying about, you know, that area, and it's like it's just everywhere, you know, mostly everywhere. I'm in upstate New York, and you just wouldn't think that would happen,
right?
With New York as a whole. And
I hear you.
You know, I walk into you know, an eatery with me, my girl, and my daughter, and, you know, people look at us like we committed a crime.
Well, honestly, back in the 50s, you did.
It was a crime. Yeah, you're right. Exactly right.
So maybe they stuck with the old penal codes. They're like, wait a minute.
Yeah, I know. It's either they're looking at me like we committed a crime and they disapprove, or they're just jealous that she has such a hot guy. One of the two.
You know, that could be some of even the men, right? Because now we, you know, so yeah.
Yeah, I haven't figured it out yet. One day I'll ask the question.
Well, you know, honestly, I know New York City you think liberal, but
yeah,
I know some places in upstate New York where they're probably pretty red, I'm sure. Like, they vote, you know, conservatively.
Absolutely.
So, absolutely. I mean, I guess it's not that surprising.
Yeah, absolutely.
Think about it.
Yeah, there's a lot of towns up here where during the election or on election night, we saw that they voted red. So it's,
absolutely.
You know, you kind of, and I know those places, and it's scary sometimes, you know, like going to different areas that, you know, I'm from the city, New York City, of course, I said that before, and going, sometimes for a lot of people growing up in New York and have lived in New York City and lived there all their life, venturing outside of that is scary to them, especially if you're black, because you don't know what's across the water, you know?
Right.
So I remember, like, my first time going out to Jersey and coming up to upstate New York and just being scared, you know, going to a girl's house and, you know, the girl was, you know, of white persuasion.
Right.
And you get scared because you don't know how these towns will react to seeing someone that isn't of the collective white, you know?
Sure.
So, you know, you get little heart palpitations here and there, you know?
Well, can I tell you? I grew up in Brooklyn. Represent BK.
Yep.
And so there was this girl I was talking to who lived in Bensonhurst.
Mm-hmm.
And if you know anything about Bensonhurst, it's like do the right thing, Italian.
Yeah. I stayed out of Brooklyn, man. Bronx people don't go to Brooklyn. It just doesn't work that way.
It's true. Yeah, it's true. It's like Bronx, Manhattan, Brooklyn, Queens. That's it. You can't really
exactly.
go anywhere else. And so when I went, it was one of those things where she had to tell. And, I'm light skinned for people who don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Light skin's making a comeback. Go Drake.
Yeah, that's right.
So when I was out there, she had to tell her mother that I was Puerto Rican. Because the worst thing she could do is talk to her brother. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it was one of those things where it's like, damn.
Wow.
It's hard. And it's Brooklyn now. Brooklyn's multicultural. You got the West Indians. You got Black, Hispanic, everybody. But, like it is, people, go into their little corners. You got Flatbush, Bensonhurst, Bay Ridge.
Yeah.
But it was just sad that, so one night, speaking of, heart palpitations, I was going to go see her, but it was late. So one of my best friends was like, dude, you're going to be like a third wheel, but I need you to come with me just in case.
Just so one of y'all could get away, right?
Exactly. Call for help. So it's crazy that and this was, I'm going to be 40 in June.
Yeah.
So I want to say this was at least 20 years ago, and you still had to worry about that. It was still a concern.
Yeah.
Actually, more than 20 years ago, probably like 22, yeah, because maybe 16, 17. So it's one of those things, where you still had to be concerned. Flash forward now, and you're saying you're in upstate New York, where you think New York is the most liberal place, but even you're now. I mean, have you ever come across someone calling you out your name or anything like that, or just stares?
In my lifetime, or just up here?
Up here.
It'd probably take me a minute to think about that. No, I've never been called out of my name. I've been profiled in a sense.
Okay.
I used to be a mailman, and so I was on this one route, and I was doing this route for about 2 weeks, and I would go into the same store, into the same corner store to get a snack when I needed it. Every day for the 2 weeks. So I became pretty friendly with the guy behind the counter.
Sure.
And he saw that I was a mailman, so there's sort of that respect there,
Right.
And so one day I went in, and he was talking to this old white couple, and
okay.
I had walked by them. I had my uniform on, my bag, and I walked by them. I went to get something to drink, and when I opened the fridge to pull out a drink, I heard the old white guy say, "You might want to keep an eye on him."
Oh.
And yeah, he didn't even say it that loud, but I guess I was just like, I was like Spider-Man. Yeah, I was like in tune to it, and I heard it.
Right.
And I didn't say anything to the dude. I just kind of like smirked and turned around, and I heard, before I turned around, I heard the guy that owned the store. He said, "No, he's a cool guy. I wouldn't worry about him." And so, I appreciate him sticking up for me in a sense, but it's like, it's like, damn, man, you don't even, to the old couple, you don't even know me.
Right.
And on top of that, I'm a mailman, and so
I know you got a job.
and so people look at us to be one of the most trustworthy people,
Right. You go to people's house, putting in their mail.
Yeah.
Wow.
Exactly. And so I made a joke when I first started being a mailman. I made a joke on Facebook that said, "Boy, if my ancestors can see me now, I just get to walk up on white folk property and hand them shit."
Without getting shot.
Without getting shot or chased by dogs, yeah. So,
wow.
Yeah.
That's so disheartening, though. I mean, it's not like you're not like a hoodie. You're not like a stereotypical brother going in the store to get a soda. He wasn't getting a 40.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I didn't pull out any old English or anything like
right.
that. Yeah.
Oh, that's so. I mean, and that shit like that hurts, man, because it's not like you have already perceived something before you even said a word.
Yeah, you don't even know me.
Oh.
And look, don't get me wrong, I do it too. Like, when I go visit my family in the city, I avoid going to certain areas because I know what's going to happen, or I know what's likely to happen. And so I'm not a saint. I do it too,
Sure.
but I guess it's kind of like a catch-22 where you just have to accept that it's going to happen.
Right.
At this point.
Part of that too goes back to where I even made a joke earlier. Light skin, dark skin. Where back in the day, I might have been in the crib. While you might have been out there, picking the cotton. Divide and conquer.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And a lot of that, you have daughters too. So
yeah.
Or a daughter. And then you got a boy coming on the way.
That's right, baby.
And represent boys to the fullest. And daughters, no doubt. Daughters represent. So my challenge as a father, right? Of course, what's our number one job? Make sure they don't go on the pole.
Yeah, of course.
Job, that's it.
Absolutely.
But
keep them off the pole.
A girl's confidence, right?
Yeah.
And what do our children see now? My daughters aren't. My daughters aren't 100% black. So my wife is half Italian.
Mm-hmm.
Half Southern black and part Bayesian.
Right.
I'm half Panamanian. Half Bayesian.
Oh man, your daughters are everywhere, man. They're all over the place.
Right. So when they see TV though, what do you still see as pretty? What do you still see on magazines? You still see basically Caucasian. And,
Caucasian, blonde hair, blue eyes.
Right, the epitome of beauty. And, a lot of things is, we're conditioned from young.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you've seen those studies where they're like, show me the bad doll. And
yeah, I've absolutely seen that, yeah.
Yeah, so, as a challenge, I got to talk to my doll every day about, this, you're beautiful. This is, you see this, I understand, she thinks long hair is pretty. And I was like, look, there are a lot of people who have short ass peasy hair, if you will, and they're beautiful too.
Right.
So it's one of those things that we are conditioned to be afraid of our own people. And don't get me wrong, some of our own people, I'll try to shoot you. I get it.
Yeah. Not everyone deserves the same trust.
Right. But we have to, get out of that mindset because all it does is have us fight each other too. When there's more of a common enemy. I always say though, and I don't know if you've ever seen me post it. Mm-hmm. It's not black versus white. It's rich versus poor.
Rich versus poor, absolutely.
It's always been that way. Even back in the day, white. The rebellions, there were white rebellions along with black people. But then the elites were like, well, wait a minute. We're going to give you a little bit more power. So you get to oversee them. Yeah. And then that's when it all broke down.
Yep, that's true.
Because we know a little bit of power, corrupts.
Yep.
Just a little bit of power corrupts.
Absolutely.
So, we got to wake up as a people, wake up our other people, and just understand that at the end of the day, we can't fear each other. Mm-hmm. And honestly, we shouldn't be corrupted by the fact that we see what we see on news, what they teach us. There's a lot they teach us that are lies. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Thanksgiving was not, hey, let me give you some, juice and you give me some eggs. I mean,
yeah, go. Can you hand me a piece of turkey? Cut that turkey for me. Right. Yeah. Who got the cranberry? Yeah, it wasn't that.
You put your foot in that. So it wasn't all about that, and I hope that, with, I guess, the education or the knowledge that I'm gaining as an adult, I impart that on my children, because I don't want them believing the same stuff that I believed growing up, in the sense that basically that's not true.
Yeah.
I mean, don't worry, Santa and Tooth Fairy, I still keep that going.
Right.
But I try to let my kids know exactly what's going on, because there's a lot out there that, of course, the victor gets to give the story, and we got to change some of that perception.
Yeah, right. So,
do you think that you've become more, I guess, for lack of a better term, Blacktivist, recently?
Yeah, Blacktivist, that's a good one. I would say so. I try. The thing with me is, I'm always in the middle, and maybe that's a problem. Maybe the fact that I'm not 100% one side is an issue, but I'm always in the middle. So as far as my politics go, I'm in the middle.
Okay.
As far as being a blacktivist or black issues, I'm also in the middle, because I can see both. I can see both sides. I'm a rational guy, so I can see some of what people who aren't black are saying about the black community. Okay. And vice versa, So
I feel you.
it's hard for me to argue points sometimes because I get conflicted because I see both sides, you know?
Uh-huh.
And so it makes it difficult to stay one-sided.
Of course.
But I guess, yeah, I've become more of a Blacktivist, yeah. That's the, screw it, that's the title of the episode, the Blacktivist. You just named it, thank you, I appreciate it.
No doubt. Well, can I tell you, I hear you, Shannon. I mean, don't get me wrong, like, I think a lot of times when we talk about police brutality and stuff, we also got to talk, and I know people are going to always say, black on black crime, but keep in mind, I agree, that has to be talked about and worked on, but don't use that as a distraction. Don't make it, okay, well, yeah, you guys should fix black on black crime, then we'll fix police brutality. It's like, those are two separate issues that can be worked on at the same time.
Right.
Because you have triad on triad crime. You got these, triads trying to kill each other. You got mafia on mafia crime. So, what happens when you have an ethnic group, the Serbs, everyone's trying to kill each other sometimes.
Absolutely. And you have to keep in mind how black on black crime, quote unquote, actually happens. It's in black communities, right? Mm-hmm. Just like white on white crime happens in white communities.
That's right.
I don't have some guy from the Bronx driving upstate to kill me,
No.
So it can't.
Usually.
Usually, black on black crimes is because people live in
the vicinity.
yeah, exactly. They live in the vicinity of each other. So if we're around each other and I have a problem with you, and of course this isn't logic that anybody should use, but
of course,
two people living in the vicinity of each other and they have an issue with each other, it's easy access,
Absolutely.
So, okay, you're black, I'm black. I don't give a shit about that. What I give a shit about is the way you disrespected me or the way you said this to somebody I know or something like that.
Right.
And so the same thing would happen in white communities, same thing would happen in Hispanic communities.
Absolutely.
The same thing will not happen in Asian communities because they are the most peaceful people I know.
Oh, yeah?
So, yeah, except for the triads, right?
I was about to say, I guess they take it to another extreme.
They're like the one-off, basically, right?
Right. No, absolutely.
But that's why black on black crime happens, and so you have to really take that into account when people talk about that.
Of course. Yeah, I know they like to throw that out as well, what about this? They're like, it's an issue, but we can't take away the fact that in Ferguson, after the Justice Department came back with their findings, they found that, black residents were 10 times to be pulled over more than white residents, that after you are not able to pay for the fine because you've been pulled over multiple times, all that does is now compound. You now could be arrested and put in jail because you didn't pay for your, let's say, speeding ticket, whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
And it just is a circle. And, that's why you got that anger and the protest, because Michael Brown was the last straw. Don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to say he was, a churchgoer.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
He wasn't a saint. Yeah, he wasn't a saint.
Right. But that's why you get the anger because, man, why you picking on me every fucking day?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
So, it's one of those things where it's frustrating, it's just so frustrating. And then, look at them, they're rioting. Well, what do you expect? We talk nice, it doesn't do anything.
Exactly.
But honestly, a lot of it came down to people have to vote, too. I guess now we're seeing this with the protests going on now.
Yeah.
I know you're not a big proponent of voting.
Yeah.
I know.
No, it's it's not that I'm not a big proponent of voting. When Bush was in office, I was pretty young, I would say, so I wasn't really up on voting. I wasn't really I didn't really pay attention to politics. I was in my own world.
Okay.
So when Obama ran, I voted.
Okay.
And partly, admittedly, it was because he was black, but I also wanted to see some sort of change in regards to
something different.
Yeah, in regards to way I wanted to see change in regarding the way the way our country looked.
Sure.
And so that's why I voted for him. I didn't vote this past presidency.
Right.
Just because, and it wasn't about Hillary's a crook and everything.
Right.
I just didn't feel the need to vote. And I admit that I misjudged the way America would vote. Because if you talk to anybody I talk to personally, they would say that I had complete faith that Donald Trump would not win.
Right.
So it's a slap in the face to me. But in a sense, he didn't win, because of the popular vote.
Right.
He didn't win. So if we counted votes that way, America did its job.
Right.
It's a whole lot of it's a scale of things, and it's hard to put it in words. Really, I wouldn't say I'm not a proponent of voting. I personally just didn't vote.
All right, I feel you. So you will vote maybe in the future.
Absolutely.
This time you did not vote, but it's not to say you do not believe in the power of the vote.
Correct.
I got you.
Yeah.
Yeah, no doubt. Me personally, I think honestly, you really have to vote in your local district rather than even president. Not to say you shouldn't vote for president, but that's what you found in Ferguson, that here's a place that's a predominantly, black community, but no one's out there voting for people who represent them.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things people have to understand, that all this anger is great, but you got to take it to the ballot boxes. Because as you can see, Republicans will try to gerrymander. They will try to fix districts. You recently have where they were, in Wisconsin and other areas where they try to put up rules that, voter ID laws just to make it harder to disenfranchise people.
Right.
So, you have to make it imperative that you're talking, other than, your protesting is great, but when it's time to vote in your local elections, because honestly, that is more important than presidency, because that's going to affect you more.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So I'm big on that. Now I'm calling senators. I'm like, one of my friends on my Facebook posts, call this senator, tell him you don't want. I'm big into that now. I mean, I was looking to see if I could become an alderman. I don't know if you saw that movie back in the day with Chris Rock, and he was an alderman.
Head of state.
Yes.
Yeah,
so
that shit came on like 2 weeks ago, man. I just sat down and watched it, for no reason.
Okay. So I'm like, how do I get to do that? Like, well, how much does that pay? First of all,
yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But I'm like, I was telling my wife, I'm like, I think I need to look into how to become an alderman. And I was like, I don't know what they do, but I know
but it sounds nice.
Exactly. It's an official title, and I need to get into that.
I need a title,
I'm big into that, bro. I'm looking more and more to find out what to do, because, it's changed. Stuff is changing before your eyes. Like, it's quick.
Right. No, I absolutely agree with that, and that's probably why you're a better man than me, because it takes so much of your extra time to do and effort.
It does. Absolutely, it does. I just, I want to be able to shape, I don't know, like, it feels almost like this current, and it's only been a few weeks, I get that, and, the shit can turn on a dime.
Yeah. But
it's scary, just the things that are going on right now.
It is.
And that, I know the president does have the authority to protect America's borders. I get that. It's something that Congress has given him.
Mm-hmm.
But when Giuliani goes on Fox News and says, and I'm paraphrasing, but it basically was, they came to us and they said they wanted a Muslim ban. And we said, well, we can't do a Muslim ban, so let's find a way we can make it legal.
Right.
But the intent was a Muslim ban.
Right, I heard that,
Don't tell me it's about protecting America. Don't do that, because you're fucking lying.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I would respect you more if you'd be like, you know what? I said it on the campaign trail. I wanted a fucking Muslim ban.
Yeah.
And I did it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I would respect that more than, no, I'm just trying to protect America. Well, I don't know what y'all talk about. And stuff like that is like, it's scary that, and of course, I have Trump supporters on my timeline.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure you do too.
I have a bunch, yeah.
Right. So I'm so perplexed. So for so many reasons. Once you voted for this guy, great. Was it because you felt he was going to bring more jobs, whatever the case may be? But now that you see that the swamp is not drained, Hillary is not going to be arrested. We know that was just a talking point.
Mm-hmm.
You have people who, for example, the head of the EPA who actually wants to close the EPA. You have people with no education experience being put in the Department of Education.
Yep.
I mean, you have someone, Attorney General, who basically doesn't give a crap about civil rights.
Yep.
And that's what you're supposed to do as an Attorney General.
Yep.
When you see this, I swear to you, my Trump supporters on the timeline don't say shit.
They don't.
They silent as fuck.
I know.
They just don't say nothing. And I'm like, why are you guys so quiet? I mean, these are travesties that are going on. Like, what's up?
These are things. Yeah, these are things that don't support their argument. So there's nothing for them to say.
Well, right, but then the guy you voted for wasn't the guy you thought you were voting for.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it's like, now you should be pissed. You know what I'm saying? You should be angry. You're not even saying anything. Like, I have just one Trump supporter, and she will just go, oh, look at the mean things they're saying about Barron, the son, of Trump.
Yeah, the son,
Oh, why are they making fun of Melania's accent?
Yeah.
Oh, Bruce Springsteen said he was, embarrassed to be an American. Motherfucker, okay, those are views to have, but what about this other shit that's going on over here? Why are you so quiet over here?
I know. They're not worried about the important things. I completely agree, man. Trust me, I've lost a few friendships because of it, because of just the difference of opinion and support. So I completely get what you're saying, man. I think this election, man, this shit destroyed a lot of friendships and relationships.
Yeah, for sure.
I don't get it, man. But
politics and religion, they will do that all the time.
They will. That's what you always try to stay away from it, but you can never escape it.
You can't. But it shapes the world.
Yeah, that's why you got a lot of black people complaining about Trump and what he's going to do and his intentions and how they're scared and I get that. Like I get I get sort of that you're apprehensive about it, but you should be using this to make your situation better. You should be using this as encouragement. You should be using this as fuel to practice your or to gain your own economic wealth. Or just teach yourself. Learn about things that you've never learned about before. Because a lot of people are scared that, they're going to lose their jobs or just scared generally of what Trump will do. And I say, hey. That's actually one of the reasons I started this podcast, and also started my clothing company is because whether it takes off or not, at least I gave it a shot,
Sure.
And obviously Trump's not going to be in office forever, but I want to start right now on building my wealth, or just building something to work towards, instead of staying stagnant. And so that's really why I started this,
Absolutely. No, that's honestly that gives some insight on what you were thinking about. I know you were just the other day like, hey, let's do a podcast, but I'm like, all right. But honestly, the thought that now I understand where you're coming from, because at the end of the day, we all want to be our own boss,
right?
So that's smart, bro. I support that 1,000%.
Yeah, when I thought about doing a podcast, you're one of the first people I reached out to, and that's because you're so opinionated, and I'm not as smart as you are, and so I'm like, hey, I can't ramble on a podcast.
I wouldn't say you're not smart.
I can't ramble. I can't ramble on a podcast for 30 minutes to sound like an idiot. So I need a buffer. I need a smart guy buffer. So that's one of the reasons I reached out to you. And then of course your life is probably a lot more hectic than mine. So. The commitment of trying to keep a schedule would just be too difficult for you. So, but of course I appreciate you coming on.
Oh, absolutely. I want to say thanks for having me, man. I really enjoyed it. It's a great sounding board. I'm hoping to do this again. I know you're going to chop it up. Hopefully you don't delete it and say it was an accident.
No. Nah, you good, man. This episode is my one attempt to attract some smart listeners, man. And
okay.
So I gotta keep it together.
Got it. Well, no, it was a great time, man. Definitely looking forward to the finished product, and like I said, maybe put in some sound effects like "oh snap," I could do some voiceovers,
I'll do a rough draft of that. I'll see how that goes.
Absolutely.
Hey man, well Dennis, again, I appreciate you joining me, man. It was a pleasure to talk to you, and I learned a few things. So thanks again, man.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me. I can't believe they gave us a podcast. And later, brother.
All right, thanks, man.